So today we are honored to welcome Mr. Gwang-Chol Chang, mostly known as GC, a distinguished expert in education policy and a long-serving professional at UNESCO. Before to start, let me just say a few lines about our guest today. Since June 2019, GC has been serving as the Chief of Education Policy Section at UNESCO Headquarters in Paris, leading efforts to shape global education initiative. And prior to this role, he was the Chief of Education Section at UNESCO Regional Office in Dakar, Senegal, where he coordinated all education programs for the region. His extensive experience also includes his tenure at UNESCO Bangkok, where he spearheaded regional education programs in areas such as sector policy, technical and vocational education and training, and quality of education. Over a career spanning nearly 3 decades, GC, our guest, has held various roles within UNESCO, including significant contributions to policy analysis and planning during his earlier years in Paris. I'm sure his global perspective and deep expertise in education policy make him a uniquely qualified voice on today's pressing challenges in education. So, with further ado, welcome to these monthly interviews that we are doing in OIDEL, GC.
Thank you. It is my pleasure to talk to you and to engage in this important dialogue.
So, I would like to throw some questions in order we can better understand what is UNESCO on some challenge. Like first, I would like to start talking about global educational challenges. This in UNESCO, well, you know that more than anyone, plays a key role in shaping education policy worldwide. From your experience, what do you see as the biggest challenges facing global education today? And how does UNESCO approach these challenges in its policy frameworks?
Yeah, so this is a very big question regarding the global challenges that the world is facing in their respective education systems. I would say that despite of all efforts many education systems, governments have been making, still the world is facing global education catastrophe, as the UN Secretary General has said, especially during the COVID-19 period. Now, what we are facing, even before that, education system has been kind of making progress towards universal primary education, and also in some countries, universal secondary education. But at the same time, what we are seeing is that in many countries, including in advanced education systems, we do see increasing number of students leaving early from schooling. And according to recent UNESCO statistics, currently there are 251 million children and youth who are out of school. So they are not, they are missing in our education system. And unfortunately, also because of different reasons, the number of children or students leaving early school systems keep increasing. And the second challenge is that even those who are in school, they are having difficulties in learning, and their learning outcomes keep decreasing for different reasons. Perhaps the school environment is not fit for their needs, and also the education that they are receiving are not relevant. So this is why tested in international learning assessment programs in many countries, the learning outcomes keep decreasing. Now, the most important is also the increasing disparities and the inequalities. Even though there are a number of and to benefit from education. Still, in many, we do have many pockets of disadvantage based on location, based on income, family, and also ethnic groups and so on, which who are the most challenged in receiving education, and they are those who are excluded from the education system, and then um, the environmental transition, and also the digital challenges, which lead to affecting the most those who are already disadvantaged, and also creating digital divide between those who have the means and those who are excluded from receiving education. So another challenge is financing. Worldwide, especially in low-income countries and also low-middle-income countries, we are estimating that there is a huge financing gap, something like close to $100 billion a year annually, in order for them to benefit from universal basic education. So this financing gap is huge. Actually, if you compare this financing gap to other expenses, I'm not going to name it's a little, but this is small, comparatively small, but a huge amount that is shortcoming is not available for children, especially in low-income countries as well as low to middle-income countries, to receive basic education and so on. So this is what I think a few examples of challenges the world is facing.
Not bad, eh? It's not an interesting time to say the least. I want to move now to the concept of the evolving right to education. Like the right to education has been a cornerstone of UNESCO's mission. However, or not necessarily however, but the concept of the right to education has evolved in recent years due to some of the challenges you have mentioned. How do you see it adapting to address the needs of future generations, particularly in light of technological advancement and new learning modalities? How do you see the evolving right to education?
Yeah, so this is a great question. This resonates very well with what the Transforming Education Summit wanted to deep dive, saying, and we say that the world is facing twin crises, crisis of equity and crisis of relevance. So first of all, despite the existence of many international normative instruments that promote quality education for all, still, as I mentioned in response to the previous question, there are still a sizable number of children who are not going to school, or who stay out of school and so on. And perhaps we think that there is a aspect that we need to review in the existing international normative instruments to understand why, despite the existence of these international instruments, as well as in countries' legislations, why these children cannot benefit from decent and quality education. Perhaps one of the issues shows is that the enforcement accountable lines may be very weak in those existing normative instruments, and then the issue is also there are new realities and new contexts that have emerged since some time ago. For instance, when I was studying, my source of information, there are only two. One is the library, school library, and the other one, which is important, are teachers. And now, today's children, they learn from other sources of information, and they learn also in school, out of school, and in family, in society, and so on. And these dimensions are not properly defined in the existing international instruments, and also in other in national legal documents. And then another important aspect is now the technology, which can allow also children to have access to information, access to knowledge from technology, mobile phones, and so on and so forth, and which also has led to increase the proliferation of the providers of learning, including private sector, companies, and others. Even though you can argue that it is not about part of the education system, still our learners are learning, and how we can define, regulate, or support these opportunities of learning outside of school. And this is something that also we might need to explore more, investigate more when we talk about learning throughout life, as children learn differently, leveraging different channels of education. So now, from that perspective, another problem is the issue of increasing disparities. Even though there are many governments making efforts in order to reduce disparities, inequalities based on different backgrounds, but still, it's unfortunate that many education systems are facing the increasing disparities in most contexts. So this is what we have to think of and see how we should strengthen the international normative instruments as well as national legal instruments for this to address the persisting challenges like inequalities, different constituencies, for them to reflect on what we need to do in order to strengthen the legal and normative instruments in order for these instruments to be more relevant, and also to accommodate the needs of those who are the most disadvantaged in this in the context of the new developments.
So, an issue that you have touched indirectly, which is science of learning education, which is a big part that is changing. As we all know, like you are preparing now for the upcoming annual expert meeting of the Global Alliance on the Science of Learning for Education in early December. What key issues do you foresee as essential to advancing the role of learning sciences in shaping global education policies?
Yeah, this work on leveraging the science of learning or learning sciences in order to support member states in making more evidence-based education policy and practice is something that is coming from the international, the global concern that many countries have been making, conducting, and deploying education reforms. And unfortunately, many of these education reforms for the transformation of education systems have been failing. And one of the reasons is that education systems, when they make policy reforms and also deploying interventions to improve our education systems, not proved to be less based on evidence. And also this is why despite spending a lot of resources to improve, many of these programs and initiatives have resulted in limited and mixed results. So this is why the high-level steering committee for SDG 4, for SDG Sustainable Development Goal on Education, established 3 functional areas where international community can work together in order to come up with some options, solutions to improve education. And out of these 3 functional areas, the first one is on evidence-based policy and practice. Under this umbrella of evidence-based policy and practice, we've come with one important work strand on how we can leverage the science of learning in order to better understand how learners learn, and also how learners learn, and also suggest some options for improving the curriculum, pedagogy, classroom practices, and assessment to be improved in light of the findings of the science of learning. So one thing that we found is that there is a great number of scientific evidence and findings that are available, but many of these findings are more small scale level coming out of research studies. And then these findings are yet to be fully experimented and put at scale in education policies and practices. So we are aiming to bring together different stakeholders, not only researchers, but also policymakers, practitioners, especially teachers and school leaders, to come around a table and to engage in meaningful discussion for them to agree on the best way to improve the education reforms, policies, and practices based on scientific evidence on how learners learn and how curriculum should be better adapted to the needs, context of children rather than the other way around. Because very often in our education systems, we want our children to adapt to what education systems would like them to learn. So it is more the other way around, that our systems should adapt themselves to the needs and context and the level of preparation of our children. This is the essence of and objective of the program that we initiated 1 year ago, and we are going to organize the annual meeting in early December, and focusing on 2 topics. One is how you use the evidence of the science of learning to improve, to address the global learning crisis that we are talking about, and to help improve the foundational skills of children, especially in early age. Second topic that we are going to focus on is how to leverage technology to support the children in their learning, and also teachers in their teaching. Because during the COVID-19 period, a lot of efforts and investments that were made in order to ensure the continuity of learning using technology. But at the same time, our member states keep asking UNESCO to come up with the evidence of how this technology can actually support the access of learners to learning, but also improve their learning outcomes. So this is what we have been working together with different the group of different stakeholders, policymakers, practitioners, as well as the scientists, to reflect on this aspect and to also compile the best, the proven and promising experiences from around the world, and then to come up with a number of options and solutions to address these issues of foundational learning and also increasing the impact, the potential of technology for expanding access to education as well as improve the learning outcomes.
Oh, promising. I want to talk now about one of your early learning and development, no? Early childhood education has been a critical area of focus for UNESCO in these last years, especially. What do you think are the most pressing priorities for ensuring quality early learning, especially in low income and conflict affected regions?
Yeah, that is a very timely question because I'm coming out of a meeting where we discuss about the production of the global report on early child care and education. And this is in response to the call to action of the Tashkent conference. It was the second World Conference on ECCE, early child care and education, that took place 2 years ago in Tashkent, Uzbekistan, which adopted the so-called Tashkent Declaration for the transformation of ECC systems. In that declaration, they asked UNESCO to work with the other partners to produce jointly biannual report on ECC to monitor the progress made since 2015 when the SDG4 was kind of agreed upon, and also the challenges that countries are facing. Now, the thing is that world countries have made a great progress, but in especially developed countries, there has been no noticeable progress. And because of different reasons, such as lack of funding and also limited awareness of the importance of investing early in children. Now, there is a number of emerging evidence that investing as early as possible in children's life can reap high return on investment for the children's journey of better learning, solid learning, and relevant learning, as well as their lifelong learning, and also for their later life development. Now, the question is that I will say that there are two main challenges. One is that the enrollment rate, participation rate when it comes to ECC is very low in many developing countries, especially in low-income countries. Only a limited percentage of children, I would say around 10%, can afford going to pre-primary education. And this is not talking about other dimensions of ECC, which include also well-being, care, protection, health, nutrition for younger children. Many of these children are excluded from any kind of services for them. And I would say that also related to this, This has to do with the limited understanding of the importance of early childhood. And also very often the discourse is that many countries say that we even don't have money, enough resources to support quality primary education, quality secondary education. Where do we find the necessary resources for catering to the needs of those young children? This is why when we do see the statistics, is that there is almost no investment in early childhood, especially when it comes to 1 year to 4 years old children, and not only there is no statistics, but when we analyze policy documents, plans of these countries, actually they don't spend almost nothing in those age. So this is a lack of awareness of the importance of this early childhood. And second is that and then because of resource constraints that they have for other groups or cohort of children, they are not investing enough or almost nothing in those children. And the children that are affected is also those who are disadvantaged, and disparities start early. And these children who cannot benefit from this early care and the ECC services, they will continue to be disadvantaged and to be excluded from society and from meaningful economic life in the future.
Great. Like we've been talking now about children, and this brings us to talk about another important actor in the field of education, which are parents. Actors that we, Idel, as you know, we talk a lot, and especially parental rights in education. So parental involvement are not in education is recognized as a key factor in student success. Also, they are recognized in human rights instruments. So my question is like, from a human rights perspective, how do you think the rights of parents to choose their children's education should be balanced with the broader goal of ensuring equal education opportunities for all children, especially in diverse culture contexts?
Yeah, this is a question that still raises some disagreement among across political systems, across cultures and education systems as well. But at the same time, as you rightly say, that the existing international instrument recognizes the role of parents and the right to choose education for their children. And so we also say in many education cultures, especially in Asia, that parents are the first educators of the children. This is why parents very often invest in their education as if it is their education. So they have right to choose the school systems that they think are the best for their children. And while at the same time, also there is need also to keep in mind also children's rights for them to have to receive a wide spectrum of education services. So also for them to socialize with other children, to learn from the also diverse context of the school environment, learning from others and so on. So the risk that I'd like to say is that there may be risk for children to be less exposed to the diversity and also to be exposed to the important mission of education, which is very much forgotten, which is socialization, relationship, also collaboration with others. So this is what I'd like to say, and I agree with the principle that parents has an important role in choosing the education services that they think are the best for the children. At the same time, also there is need also to think of the children's right to get exposed to the diversity of different contexts. And then there is another problem is that not a problem, potential risk that a challenge or risk potential challenge, which is the inequalities.
Mhm.
So we advocate that the governments are the primary custodian of the children of the country, and they have the primary responsibility to provide the best quality education to all children of the country. But at the same time, parents are not satisfied with the education services provided by the governments, and then they would like to have their children in education in school systems that can respond better to their needs and to the needs of the families. While at the same time, also this involves paying and paying for the education can also lead to the creation of the inequalities among the members of the society. So this is something that also we should keep in mind. And while at the same time, in some contexts, governments don't come up with an education system that is inclusive and pushing away some children that are not conforming to a certain idea of the society, then I think parents, this is what's happening, will have to choose also some other different school systems that could provide more inclusive and conducive environment for their children.
Jesse, I don't know if I'm taking advantage of your time. Do I have time for one last question? Yeah, perfect. So I wanted to finish talking about one project that you've been involved. I don't know if it's called project or initiative, Future for Education Policy. As the chief of education policy section, you have worked across many regions and issues. Looking ahead, what do you think will be the key priorities of education policy in the next decade? And how can international organizations like UNESCO support countries in meeting these goals?
Yeah, that this is something that I have been struggling as I've been working with countries in order for them to come up with solid education policies and plans. While at the same time, change is not easy because countries have been used to the established way of planning and making policies and also developing interventions. Now, the thing is that society has changed and socio-economic environment have changed, and how our education systems are still valid in light of the changes that took place in society and economy. And let me take one example, is that, as I said earlier, that today's children learn differently from the way that we, as an adult, I used to learn in my time. And this because since they are learning differently, having access to different sources of information and knowledge, how our curriculum could be better adapted to the needs and the capacities of the children. And then also when we see that the technology penetrating our lives and also penetrating our children's way of learning, and how we should take this into consideration in the policy and policy making and planning. We know that we should change the way the policy and the plans are made in order to take into consideration the children's differences. While at the same time, we don't know yet how to address it, because there is a kind of inertia of education system, resistant or resilient to changes taking place. And related to this is that also there is no solid scientific evidence of how to take into consideration this change that takes place in the way that children are learning. So this is one thing that I think that the future of planning and policy making should take into consideration. Another consideration that I'd like to share is that many plans have, especially in developing countries, have been developed with support of think tanks and external consultants. And then how these plans once developed, solid technically, are owned by the people who are going to implement. So there is a still lack of a participatory approach to building the vision and also to preparing the plans and ensuring that there is buy-in of these policies and plans by all stakeholders, including not only school leaders, but also educators, and also parents and the wider school community. So there is a still mismatch between what we think should be done and what is actually being undertaken. So I think in summary, I would say that the future of the education plan should be more reflecting on the changes that took place and also on the scientific evidence about the way that the children are learning differently. And then thirdly is also how we can strengthen the policy and social dialogue around the future, around the education policy vision and also plans for them, for all the stakeholders to own, to feel that these plans are on and they are ready to implement, and they can play a role in making this vision and policy a reality.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, I think it was really insightful to understand where we are in light of the future challenges of the right to education. Um, this leads us to an end. I don't know if you want to add anything before we wrap up this conversation.
Yeah, that even thank you very much for the number of great questions that you asked. Even though I answered these questions from different angles, I must confess that we actually don't know how to improve our education systems. We do have an idea, but very often if we ask these questions to 10 people, their answers will be different. And this means that there is no agreement, or there is an agreement, but they having different understanding what we have to do in order to improve. One example is parental choice. It's depending on context and also cultures, people will have different answers around this issue. And this is relating also to one important issue of, for instance, supplementary private tutoring. Is it something that is good? Parents have chosen to send their children to take extra courses out of school. They have their reasons, because perhaps school systems, they are failing. They don't want their children to have a better education, better learning outcomes throughout the, or they want to succeed in national exams so that they can get to the best universities. But at the same time, you also know that how this creates a huge burden on families, on parents. So this is why very often what we do at UNESCO, we bring together different stakeholders who don't agree, but they should agree to disagree, so that we put issues on the table, we discuss, we learn from each other, and also supporting each other. This is what I would say peer learning, policy learning. We need this kind of dialogue more, especially between stakeholders to disagree.
Great. No, and I can vouch that you are doing that, and it's something that as an NGO we highly appreciate it. Which it's important to build policies on evidence, but at the same time we are talking about a human reality that is complex. It has a lot of access, and it's no. We say sometimes, that like you want to learn about an animal, you see an animal, and you have all the complexities that the species has, but human being, you have each human being is a history. That's what makes educational policy so complex and fun at the same time.
Yes, I.
No, thank you for your time, for sharing your invaluable expertise and perspective on challenges and opportunities shaping global education today. It's not an easy conversation, and I know we could have been here for another, I was about to say 30 minutes, but I would say also like 2 hours. Um, as we look to the future, it's clear that education will remain a cornerstone, nevertheless, to address global challenges. And leaders like you will play a crucial role in shaping these policies to make a meaningful impact. I'm addressing our listeners. Thank you for joining us in this important conversation. We hope it has sparked ideas and encouraged you to think more deeply about the transformative power of education. I'm convinced many of you were already convinced. And until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and let's continue working together to build a world where everybody has access to quality education. Thank you again, Jesse, and goodbye.
Thank you.